Scott. Ask Scott.
Hi Scott, my name's Brandon and I'm from the UK. Just want to say you have an excellent podcast. You've taught me so much new stuff and you've convinced me to take action, which is what I'm trying to do now. So appreciate everything you've done. My question is, I found a product that's it's an electronic. I know you said not to sell electronics, but I feel like this is a good one for me. And I'm curious as to whether you need to display the FCC label on the back. I know that's for the US, or in the EU or the UK, it's CE. So do you need to show that on the product or anything like that? So hopefully you can answer my question. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Brandon, thank you so much for the question all the way from the UK. It's awesome. And I love your accent. You guys have heard me say that before. I love those accents out there. Anyone that has an accent other than mine, I feel sounds smarter. I just do. It's just the way I think. But anyway, awesome accent. Thank you so much for being a listener. I'm so glad that you've gained some wisdom and even some motivation or encouragement to move forward in this business model. So congrats on that. Now let's talk about this. Now I have said in the past that, especially if you're just starting, yes, electronics, I would stay away from personally. That's me. That doesn't mean that you have to, right? Anything that I ever say is my opinion. There's no I'm not going to give you this has to be this way because those are the rules. There is really no rules other than the ones that Amazon make up that you can abide by. That's up to you, right? But these are just my suggestions because with electronics, you are dealing with other things. Like you had mentioned, FCC, there's some things that you need to be compliant with, and then that could have a whole nother host of problems or issues or things that you need to deal with. Now, for some people, that's a good thing. They're like, cool, that means I'm gonna have less competition. Okay, then go that route. But just understand you're gonna have to probably hire an attorney. You're probably going to have to talk to some product liability brokers here pretty soon in the beginning to see even if that's something that you're going to be able to get product liability insurance on. Because again, if you have something that could be harmful to someone, if it's electronics, they could get electrocuted or whatever, right? You have to be careful with that stuff. So not to scare anyone off, but I just want you to understand the reason why I have always said that I'm not a fan of that right this second is because I don't want to deal with all of those other things right now. I think there's other products that we could be sourcing. But again, that also means that there's people that are saying you know what, that's an opportunity then for me to actually go into a less competitive space because there isn't as much competition because people don't want to deal with that stuff. And that's the truth. So to answer your question, I don't know 100% what you should do as far as having that on there. The common sense side of me says you're going to need it on there. You're going to need to make sure that the company that you're buying it from is compliant. You need to probably reach out to an attorney and make sure that you make sure that you're covered as far as is this something that I need to have certain labeling, on? Is there any other FCC stuff that I'm not aware of? Do I need to then, check with my manufacturer, make sure that there's a certain code that they're following? They have the right stamping, the right size of the stamping. I don't know. There's some things there that you're probably going to need to figure out. Now, some people would say, well, I'll just ask the manufacturer. I wouldn't just do that because the manufacturer, especially if it's in China, they're going to do things the way they think it needs to be done. That doesn't mean it's right. Right? Some people have said, well, I can go to China too, and I can have a product made. And if they're making the product, then I don't have to worry about patents, right? And the answer is no, that's wrong. They will make something over there and violate a patent, and they don't care because they're not going to get in trouble for it because you're the one selling it. You're the one that's basically putting it into the marketplace. Even though they're manufacturing it. So you just got to be careful with that stuff. So again, to answer your question, it would be to reach out to an attorney. I know Ted Limas, a good friend of myself and the podcast. He's helped out a lot of TASers out there. I'm sure if he knows the answer, he can help you. If not, I'm sure he can direct you. I'll leave his link in the show notes. So anyone wants to check out the show notes on this episode can do so, and then you can maybe reach out to him and see if if that's someone that can help you, as far as like getting that information, or maybe you have an attorney, reach out to them. This also would come under, I guess, the thought of, well, again, is it more of a liability? And if it is, then you have to say, okay, is everything in place in my business? Am I structured properly? Do I have the right insurance? Do I have the right business entity? Do I have an LLC? Do I have things protected on that aspect? So this way here, you don't get into a jam if someone gets hurt with it and then they come back to try to sue you. So there's some other things that come into the mix because it's an electronic piece. So I know your initial question was, do I need to have this thing labeled with FCC? The answer is probably yes, but there's more that goes into that than just the label. In my eyes, there's probably some warnings that need to be put on it of some kind. Again, I'm not a legal advisor. I don't pretend to be. So don't anyone take this as legal advice. Please go out and get some legal advice because this is nothing to play around with. Like, I would be careful in that. In as far as like anything that I feel is FCC regulated, or if there's any type of code that needs to be up to date or any of that stuff, you definitely want to make sure that you're talking to the right people there. All right. So hopefully this has helped you, or anyone else that's listening that's thinking about going into not even just electronics, but anything that you feel could be harmful to someone on the other end. You want to make sure that you go through the right procedures to make sure that you're covered, right? You're protected, number one, with insurance or your business entity or both, and then also you're compliant with the FCC regulations and all that stuff. All right, so hopefully that answered your question. I know it was a little long-winded there. Man, I'm getting long-winded today. I don't really want to be, but I just keep rambling. Hopefully it's helpful. So. Well, hey there. Thank you so much for listening to that episode of Ask Scott. Now, that was just a highlight from one of our full episodes where I generally answer 3 to 4 questions on a podcast. If you want to go back and listen to all of the past archives of not just the Ask Scott session, but all of the full episodes where I do interviews with top Amazon sellers, people starting from scratch and building a business, if you want to listen to any of those episodes, head over to theamazingseller.com and you can find all of that over there. You can also find details there on how you can ask your own question and get it aired on an upcoming Ask Scott session and possibly see it here on YouTube or just on the podcast. All right, so definitely head over to theamazingseller.com. There's tons of resources over there for you to be able to build your e-commerce and Amazon business. So definitely go check that out. Now, I just wanted to remind you one thing before I let you go. There's a lot of information out there and some of it is really, really good. But what I want you to remember is you have to not just consume the information, you have to actually apply that information. So take this information that you learned here today and apply it to your business. And this way here, you can get results. As my shirt says, I wear it almost daily. Take action. We'll see you guys.